Anime has no shortage of incredible heroes, from aliens to pirates to ghosts and ninjas. They have pretty much every base covered. And yet there's one hero who I find incredibly inspiring that you never hear about. Today, I'm going to talk about why that needs to change. Hold up, Bel Crenel from Danmachi? You mean this guy? Yeah, I do. And I dare you to watch this whole thing and then tell me you don't agree at the end. When Bel starts off, he's far from the character I portrayed him as. He's weak, he lacks confidence, and it seems like his sole motivation is to impress Ais Wallenstein, a girl who saved him from a minotaur in a dungeon one time. Early on, he can't even look her in the eyes, and he literally runs away when she's around. So you sold yet? He doesn't have it easy either. He lost his grandpa, the only family he knew, and is the sole member of the goddess Hestia's familia. So he's weak, poor, and has one ally. Though he does have one special ability. That ability is fast growth, meaning he levels up more quickly than others. I can already feel your eyes beginning to roll. That's a classic isekai cheat skill from all those lame series where some loser becomes invincible. I know. Trust me, this is not something where he wipes his ass and grows to level 1000. Far from it. It means when he goes on dungeon raids and works his ass off to improve his skills as an adventurer, he's rewarded for it. Honestly, he outworks every character in the show anyway, so it's basically redundant. And he has to outwork everyone because he's constantly getting his ass kicked. But it's not his combat abilities that make him special to me. It's his ability to pull the ladies. It's his mentality. Bel is the Argonaut, a true hero in the mold of a Superman or Captain America, and one done very well. I know there is sentiment out there that paragons are boring, and look, as a former edgelord, I get it. But in this case, I strongly disagree. Let's talk about why. Remember how I said Bel needed to be saved from a minotaur? One that left him a bloody mess cowering in a corner? Well, it returns. It's also been reincarnated to be even stronger than it was before. Bel and his supporter Lily are in the dungeon when it reappears. Of course, Bel's first priority is to make sure Lily is safe. He tells her to run while he fights, and she reluctantly does. This is still early in the series, so you have to remember this version of Bel is still weak. He's telling himself this is just like last time, I have to escape, I'm going to die. He has all these doubts, but if he runs, it could go after Lily. So despite fearing for his life, he keeps fighting. He's badly wounded, and it looks like that's it for him. Then Lily returns with the low-key familia, Ais's familia. They attempt to intervene, and something in Bel snaps. He stops them. This isn't something dumb like letting Cell become perfect, because no one here is in danger except Bel. This is something he needs to prove to himself. As time has gone on, his goals have shifted. He doesn't want to look up to Ais, he wants to be her equal. He'll never catch her if he continues to let her save him. Plus, the last time was humiliating. His name was dragged through the mud over it. He must push himself, and he does. When he defeats the Minotaur, he proves not only to the low-key familia, but himself, he's a true adventurer. This is arguably the most important step in his growth, going from a coward to a leader, something that continues to progress throughout the series. He really embodies the saying, there is no shame in being weak, the shame is in staying weak. Which is why I'm baffled that one of the common criticisms of the character is that he's annoying. Annoying how? By being nice? Not everyone has to be dark, edgy, or brooding. Not everyone needs a bunch of tragic backstory flashbacks, a badass transformation, or cool-looking eyes. He's simply himself, and that's more than enough. When things go wrong, who would you want to save you? The brooding guy with the tragic backstory who looks cool? Or the guy who will always do the right thing, regardless of the personal cost? You're kidding yourself if you don't choose the latter. Here's why. One of the most annoying misconceptions about characters like Bel is, being moral doesn't mean he's perfect. One of the reasons why classic good guy heroes are considered boring or generic is because of a perceived lack of struggle or never having their worldview challenged. Neither of these remotely apply to him. Bel spends a lot of time getting his ass kicked, and early on is constantly made fun of and belittled. The first scene of the series is him nearly dying and having to be saved by a girl, one he instantly starts fawning over. His nickname for the first few seasons is Little Rookie. What, was Short Pussy taken? When he reaches a level where he can receive a new one, they call him Rabbit's Foot. Oh, that's way better. But being a hero isn't about the name, it's about what you do. And like any great hero, he keeps getting back up when he falls and then pushes forward. He doesn't win every big fight, and he doesn't always save the day, but he does always try. How his relationship with Aiz changes over time is a great example of his growth. He goes from idolizing her to striving to be her equal. She trains him and he gains confidence. She gains respect for him and they grow closer. But it's not all smooth sailing. Danmachi is a world where monsters are considered exactly that. Mindless creatures whose sole purpose is to be eradicated before they eradicate you. This is something ingrained in everyone from the first scene of the series, and in show, from birth. Yet when a monster pops up a few seasons in, on the run, terrified and crying, Bell immediately abandons any prejudice he's been raised to have and protects her. He doesn't see a monster, he sees an individual, Vine. When his own party, the people nearest and dearest to him, scold him for this, he doesn't budge. I'll get back to this, but remember, we're talking about Lily, someone whose entire worldview was changed by Bell. We're talking about Haruhime, a girl whose dream Bell made true. Wealth, a guy Bell motivated to re-pursue his passion, and Mikoto, a girl indebted to Bell for an earlier betrayal. These are the people that lash out at him, and he simply takes it, standing his ground for this creature he just met. There's a reason why Bell is considered special in the world of Danmachi, and it's not because he's some One-Punch Man type powerhouse. All these people we've seen are kind-hearted, likable, relatable even, and yet they can't push aside their pre-existing beliefs. Let's be honest, most people couldn't, but Bell can, and because of him, they reluctantly come on board, and eventually grow to care for Vine. These are the characters we all know and have come to love in the series, and it took them some time. Imagine how the rest of the world would react in that situation. Actually, you don't have to, because we already know. I've talked about it before, but it's worth mentioning again because these are my favorite moments in the show and do such a good job of showing why Bell is one of my favorite anime heroes. When Vine has been manipulated into becoming a semi-mindless beast and escapes the dungeon to enter the city of Arario, all sorts of different adventurers and familia gather, including Aiz, all ready to take Vine out. So what does Bell do? He once again places himself in front of Vine, protecting her from a society that despises her. This could destroy his reputation, lead to him being ousted from Arario, and sever relationships he values. You can tell this isn't easy for him. Look at him. He knows what's at stake, but he does it anyway because it's the right thing to do. That is why I love Bell Cornell. Even when the personal cost is high, he chooses to do what he believes is right. But can he do the same to Aiz? It's one thing to stand up to randoms, but your busty blonde crush? That's something else. This is the woman he's idolized, who he strove to match, and someone he's in love with. None of that matters because Aiz is in the wrong. Bell will protect Vine, even if it costs him Aiz. Even when others scheme behind his back to influence his actions to do otherwise. He's had that integrity inside him from the beginning, but it took time for him to gain the courage to act on it. Here's another example. Lily had joined him as a supporter and they grew fond of each other. But Lily's whole life, she'd been taken advantage of by adventurers and she hated them for it. She assumed eventually he'd turn on her, so she betrayed Bell before he could betray her. But when she finds herself trapped in the dungeon, beaten down by thugs, on the verge of being Monster Chow, he shows up to save her, and it completely changes Lily's life. There's a beautiful moment where Hestia is told that she should keep Lily away from Bell, and Hestia simply says, "Can't do it. Bell's already made up his mind. He won't abandon her." Moments like that are what heroism is all about. Haruhime was working as a prostitute, and she spent a lot of time fantasizing about the stories she'd read growing up about brave heroes saving damsels in distress. Even though it was her dream, she was convinced because of her profession, she wasn't pure enough to be worth saving. Guess what? Bell goes through hell to save her, and she was basically a friend of a friend he'd met like twice before doing so. Ryu was someone burdened with both survivor's guilt and the guilt of her own personal vengeance. A girl who was once vocal about her ideals was broken down by reality. Back during the days when she would debate idealism versus realism with her familia, it was always a back and forth. But one day she asked, what if someone comes along who makes their ideals reality? What do you call that person? A hero. That's exactly what Bell is to Ryu when he saves her in the dungeon and inspires her to defeat the Juggernaut. Notice I said inspire, because the more action he takes, the better leader he becomes. How he impacts others is part of what makes him special and why we see so many take to him. These characters in Bell all form powerful relationships, though the most important relationship, and one I have yet to touch on much, is the one with Hestia. She was the one who saw something in him from the beginning, the one who was there for him before he grew and made something of himself. When he was alone, she was his support system. When he was in trouble, she had his back. When the series began, they were poor, alone, and incredibly flawed characters. They still are. But I think it's important to note that despite that, they always seemed happy. Not letting a poor situation bring you down is tough, but they both put in the effort to better themselves and their situation. Hestia deserves a lot of credit for the values she's instilled in Bell and what type of man he becomes. As I said before, he still fails too. When he saves Vine, he's instantly met with a rematch with the Minotaur from before, and he loses. In the dungeon, he's not the one who overcomes the Juggernaut, and his first attempt at fighting it did not go well. He doesn't take out Ishtar. For as much as he's grown, even seasons in, he's still flawed. He's always been naive, but you could argue he's grown more reckless as the series progresses. While his strength, confidence, and status all grow throughout the series, he never loses sight of who he is. He's always the same kind Bell, whether it's just Hestia, a whole town fawning over him, or a whole city turning on him. In Season 5, he's tested mentally in a way he's never been challenged before. The goddess Freya casts a spell on the entire city, making everyone forget he was part of Hestia's familia, and instead, everyone believes he's part of hers. Bell has no allies. Freya gaslights him at every turn. She does things only his goddess should be able to do, recalls memories she shouldn't have any knowledge of, and every day his training is fighting to the death to physically exhaust him and wear him down. The only comfort he's allowed to feel is when he's with Freya. And on top of that, look at her. She's the apex of the hot crazy scale. What makes this so compelling is, to this point, I have explicitly told you that Bell always does what's right, regardless of the impact it has on him. But what is right here? If you're told that your memories being a certain way are the result of a spell, in a world where that's absolutely possible and believable, is it wrong to believe that? Especially when everyone and everything out there only confirms that belief. Most everyone would break in that situation, which leads to one of my favorite scenes in the entire series. He's at a breaking point. He truly doubts his entire life's worth of memories. Then he goes to see Eyes. While she doesn't remember him, she does say she feels a connection to him and that they should go train on the wall, where she can beat him again. And that's all it takes for him to believe in himself. Look, no one can do everything on their own. Even heroes need a shoulder to lean on sometimes, and Eyes being the one to save him, but not in the way she used to, is such a beautiful moment. What he says next is the epitome of why he's a character I admire so much. The whole world may try to tell me otherwise, but proof is ingrained in my body. It sounds kind of familiar, like something from another amazing hero. That's why he's the best hero no one talks about. With that, I'm out.